Hey Game Changers, Barry Magadidi here, your host for the Comeback Game podcast. Today I'm joined by Allan Dib, who's a serial entrepreneur, rebellious marketer, technology expert, and a #1 best-selling author. Allan has started, grown, and successfully exited multiple companies in various industries. He's also grown a business from startup in 4 years and being named as BRW, Business Review Weekly, one of Australia's fastest growing companies. Allan, how you doing today, mate?
Hey, Barry, pleasure to be on the show.
Yeah, super grateful to have you on, mate. How are you?
I'm very well. And you?
Mate, living the dream, and I'm really excited to kind of extract some of the knowledge out of your brain. You've obviously been involved with a number of successful companies, and a recent one being named BRW, one of the fastest growing companies in Australia, which is no small feat. So you're a man that's been there and done that multiple times. I think you've got a lot to share with our audience today. Do you want to kick things off? Just share a little bit about your background, like who you are, and specifically what sort of industry and niche you're in at the moment.
Yeah, so I started life as my business life as a dead broke IT geek. I was literally, crawling under desks, connecting computers, and, I started my first business in IT, or managed services as it's known now. I struggled for a long time to figure out the whole game of how do you get clients, how do you do marketing, all of that, because, I came from a tech background. I did not come from a business or a marketing background. So I spent probably a good decade learning through trial and error. Anyway, I finally cracked the code, so to speak, using direct response marketing. I built that business to be a national business, ended up selling that for more money than I'd ever seen in my life. I started another business, which was in the telecommunications space. We went from 0 to 4 years later being named by BRW Fast 100 as one of the top 100 growing companies in Australia. I exited that as well. And now I'm basically helping business owners with their own marketing, and really helping them with a framework. So it's not just kind of like random stuff, like random tactics or agency kind of work, but it's really helping them have a really defined framework for what marketing is and where all of these tactics kind of fit in.
Yeah, fantastic. And so for someone who's been in business for a while, like when did you first start? Like when did you get the entrepreneurial itch?
Look, I got the entrepreneurial itch pretty early on. I mean, getting that itch and knowing how to execute on that is two different things. I knew that I'm not really cut out to be an employee. I think the longest job I ever held down was about 6 months, and by the end, I wanted to, jump off a building. Really, I just had enough. I'm not good at sitting in a cubicle and taking orders. So yeah, look, early on, I knew I wanted to work for myself, but really doing the difference between knowing it and doing it are two different things, and doing it very well at a high level is also something very, very different. So I thought all you needed to do is be smart enough to start a business, which I was able to. But that's when the struggle really kicks in, when you realize, hang on, it's more about knowing how to get clients, satisfying clients and all of that, than it is about doing the technical stuff that you do.
Yeah. So before we kind of dive into, I guess, some of the learnings and some of the key things, because it's not just that you cracked the code once, like you've done this a number of times now. And as you said, one of the recent companies getting on the BRW fastest 100 list as well. So, to me, that lets me know that you have a strategy, you have a blueprint for doing this time and time again. Yep. Before we kind of jump in and share some of the tips around that, I'd like to know, like, what have been some of the biggest disasters or the biggest challenges that you've kind of been through? How long has it been since you first got into business for yourself now?
I think it was around 2000, year 2000 that I started the first business. So yeah, almost 2 decades now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was yeah, I remember, because it was around a big thing in the IT industry at the time was the year 2000
Y2K.
bug, the Y2K. Yeah. So yeah.
Did you make your millions off the Y2K?
I didn't make millions. I did okay doing some contracting as an IT guy, but that was about it.
Yeah. So if you look back at the last couple of decades, I'd really love you to share with the listeners and the viewers today, like, what have been some of the biggest challenges or failures or disasters that you've had? And love to know a bit more about how you've kind of overcome them. But let's dive into what have been some of the big ones for you?
Oh, there've been heaps, but really the biggest one, yeah, and no doubt, no doubt, and you learn from your mistakes. But my biggest one is where, and I believe, without getting too woo-woo and all of that, I believe the universe keeps teaching us the same lesson until we learn it,
Yeah.
and, for me, the biggest thing was that mindset shift of understanding that, because I thought if I get better at the tech stuff, more clients will come my way, right? So, and I was really, really good at what I did, and I kept learning all the new technologies because new technologies come out all the time, and I kept getting certified in Microsoft, in Cisco, and all of the other technologies and things like that. And I thought the more I did that, the more that clients would recognize how good I am and would hire me more. And what I found that wasn't true at all, and to my frustration, my competitors who were far inferior technically, in fact, they would hire us often to train them on the latest technology. They were actually running rings around us when it came to financial performance for getting new customers. They would constantly get a stream of new customers. We would get a dribble here or there. And I'm like, I'm like banging my head against the desk, kind of thinking, what am I doing wrong? Like I'm really good technically, and these guys who we're actually training, who are miles behind us from a technology point of view, are murdering us when it comes to the marketplace. And so I was telling a mentor of mine at the time my troubles, and he said, and this really changed my life. He said, when do people know that your product or service is better? And I said, well, obviously when they work with us. And he said, well, before they work with you, they only know how good your marketing is. So you need to become a marketer of IT services, not an IT guy who does marketing, but you need to become a marketer of IT services. And that was like a lightning bolt to me. That was a mindset shift. That's when I understood that I really needed to become a marketer of IT services, or if you're an accountant, you become a marketer of accounting services rather than the other way around. And so that's really when I understood that it's the marketing that comes first. Yes, of course you've got to have a good product, good service, and all of that, because you won't retain clients. But before you retain clients, you've got to acquire clients.
Yeah. I think it's a really key point that you mentioned there. Like I've coached hundreds of business owners around the world over the last few years. And one thing that I've seen often is I've met business owners that aren't the sharpest tool in the shed. And this is absolutely no disrespect. They're just not necessarily business savvy. And they've got massive businesses making a ton of money. And then I've met other business owners who are like so book smart, like they know everything about marketing and sales and systemization, recruitment and stuff, and they're struggling to pay their wages. And in the beginning, this really, I was really gobsmacked back by this until I started to realize that the key difference between the two was around their product and their niche. It wasn't even necessarily the marketing per se, but the people that were maybe not as book smart and were succeeding was because they had a product that essentially sold itself, right? Which is marketing, whether they're out there on Facebook or their socials or not. Really came down to how they were positioned in the marketplace. And that, to me, similar to you, was a game changer in terms of, okay, well, no one knows how good you are until they know how good your marketing is, and you have the ability to attract them. And I remember one of my mentors said to me that if you can articulate somebody's problem to them better than they can themselves, they must unconsciously and automatically assume you have the solution. And I was like, and that was a game changer when it came to marketing. That was a game changer when it came to sales. It's like, how can I articulate somebody's problem to them better than they can themselves, and became obsessed with my marketplace.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. I 100% agree with that. And you're absolutely right. The vehicle that someone chooses makes a big difference. If you're driving a Ferrari from a product perspective versus a beat up old jalopy, you're going to have a much harder time. And that's what I call the offer that converts, right? So getting that right is so critical.
Yeah. I guess the amazing thing about this is that marketing has the ability to change like your business and your life. The not so amazing thing about this is that, unfortunately, especially in our industry, we see a lot of people that are half decent at marketing and they're very substandard at actually delivering results for their clients.
Yes.
Which, you know, I noticed that Facebook is doing a lot of things to change that, where they're randomly reaching out to clients of, you know, if you're advertising on Facebook, they're randomly reaching out to your clients through the data they've collected from you to get a review on how well you delivered your product and service. And if you don't meet a substandard with them, they'll actually just cancel your ad account down, which is a huge potential problem for many advertisers, but a huge opportunity for those of us that are doing an incredible job online to obviously really start to cut through the noise out there.
Yeah, indeed. And like I said, you do have to have a good product. You do have to have a good service. You have to be able to deliver on your promise, because it's only temporary that you can kind of fool people for a while. You can pull the wool over people's eyes for a while, but you're going to trash your reputation. You're going to trash. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of people to kind of have negative reviews of your product or service online for it to really dominate some of the search results. So you do have to have a good deliverable. But the simple fact is, I see a lot of people who have a great deliverable and nobody knows about it. And that's something that I find is a very, very big problem that's out there. That, you know, people like. I've seen some amazing products and services, and, you know, the market leader in the space is massively inferior, but because they're delivering something that's good enough with a really good marketing message, they're just dominating that market space.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. Something for the guys to think about, definitely. Curious to know, like, what's been another challenge or setback that you've kind of come up against in, you know, the last 2 decades of being an entrepreneur and business owner?
Yeah, and I did a live training just this morning about this, but it's really understanding how to manage a team and how to manage people. I think that's been a critical mindset shift for me. Previously, I thought that I needed to be kind of the linchpin, the center point where everybody's reporting to me, all information is going through me. And that works a little bit for a while, but first of all, it gets exhausting. Secondly of all, for an entrepreneur, that's usually not your core skill. So people management, managing a team, managing the flow of information, it's usually, you know, we have a different, you know, as entrepreneurs, we have a different idea every 5 minutes. We get bored very easily. You know, we're not going to follow that operations manual. We're not going to follow that checklist as regularly as it needs to be done, because we get busy, we get bored, we move on to new things. And so changing the way that I lead people and lead my team has been a massive difference for me. So putting into place a person who's kind of the operational person, and I'm like a moon orbiting my business, where I work on the things that I'm best at, doing stuff like creating new content, working with clients, chilling out on podcasts, all of that sort of stuff. That's the stuff that I'm best at. Following checklists on what to do on LinkedIn or what to do on Instagram, or you know, writing copy. I still write copy, but not the vast majority of it. So those are the things that I know are important, but, like, you know, I'll get to that later, or I'll do that when I have time, or whatever. And of course, it never or rarely gets done. And so putting someone into place in my team who's kind of the team leader, who everybody reports to them, and then I just communicate with them on a regular basis. I do have team meetings as well, but really I'm not the center of the team kind of thing, where I'm managing every little interaction. So that's been a game changer for me as well.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic because, like Michael Gerber talks about it a lot in his book, The Myth Revisited, about the 4 stages that a business owner needs to transition. You know, we go from being the technician when, you know, we're like, hey, screw the corporate world, or screw, you know, working for someone else, let's go and do this on our own. Yes. And we're great at being a service provider of IT or something. Yep. And then we start to learn, well, hang on, it's not just about doing this, it's about, you know, being able to build something that people are attracted to. So we start to transition to the manager. Yep. Which is very much what you've just spoken about, where there's a checklist, there's a balances, there's consistency and execution of projects. Yep. It's very much of a head type of a game. And then in order for us to start to further grow the business, we need to transition to being a leader, which is more around how do we now activate the performance in our teams? How do we unlock their genius, their greatness? and it's more of a role that comes from that heart space and intuition.
Yep.
I suppose, and inner guidance. And then we move into being the entrepreneur. But one of the best books I've personally read around this is Rocket Fuel, where it talks about the dynamics between the visionary, which is like 20 great ideas, always new shiny things, and the integrator, which the integrator is that person that ensures the ship stays steady and point in the right direction, and kind of is that voice of reason when you keep bringing new ideas all the time. It's like, well, no, Alan, we're doing these at the moment, and when we get these done, we can then go on to something else. One thing that I've found a lot with our clients, and I'd love to get your take on this, is that it can often be a challenging situation to step out of, going from being essentially that control freak where everyone is reporting into you and that center linchpin, to then actually being, like you put it so beautifully, being like the moon that orbits around the business or orbits around the planet. Like, was that something that you found personally challenging, like stepping back and letting someone else kind of step into that role?
Yeah, I found it massively challenging, and like I said, I did it wrong for longer than I've done it right, and that is a challenge, especially when you kind of like, hey, if I just do it myself, I'll get it done. Like that's something I hear a lot from my clients. Hey, it's faster for me to just do it myself than to teach someone how to do it or show someone how to do it, right? So, and especially like when it's not at 100% of your, like to your standard, right? Or and you know, your standard might be real or it might be arbitrary, but like, and so the rule I sort of came up with is, look, if it's 80% as good as I do it, let it go, right? We don't have to get to 100%. We don't have to get to 90%. But if we're really falling below standard, then there's an opportunity for education. There's an opportunity for growth. And, you know, the other thing is not like, and I've always known that, you know, and that's been a large part of my success in the past, creating those systems and documentation, but that takes a long time. And in this business, what I've done is I've got the team to do that, because they're going to own that more, and it's going to be closer to the truth than sometimes when you're documenting something, it's too idealistic. Hey, step one, just do this. Step two, just do that. And it feels very logical and easy. But when you're actually in implementation mode, that's when you see all the shortcomings of the process. So I get my team to build the standard operating procedures and to follow them as well. So that's been an important part of the process as well. And really, I think the other part of it is giving people enough freedom and autonomy to have the ability to surprise you. Hopefully they surprise you positively most of the time, and my team do. But even when they do so negatively, as long as it's not, you know, something like dishonesty or whatever, like that, there's no room for there. But like if someone's made a mistake or made a mess up or whatever, you've got to be very careful how you handle that. Like some people come down on them like a ton of bricks, and that ensures that they will never try again. They will never take any risks in the future. So the way that you handle mess ups and mistakes and things like that is a very important part of leadership. So being able to say, hey, look, we messed it up. That's okay. We'll do it better next time. So here's what I reckon we could do better.
Yeah. Well, it's really, I guess, adopting that systems thinking. It's like so often business owners aren't willing to do the work of putting the systems in place. And I totally agree. Like, you know, we run our business the same way. We mentor our clients to do the same thing, where you actually educate your staff on putting the processes together, because as a business owner, often there's a lot of stuff that we do unconsciously. You know, we have that unconscious competence with things. Whereas when we're allowing our staff to do them, they're having to kind of follow through those steps to create them. But you know, the thing is, if a mistake happens, it's a very simple question when you have the systems in place: is, was the system followed? And if it was, what do we need to fix in it so that we get a different outcome next time? Or if the system wasn't followed, what stopped it from being followed? You know, and it takes a lot of that personal blame away from the team member. And as I said, really, I guess, encourages them to flourish and them to become all they can be, which is that leadership level we spoke about in those four particular stages. What have been some of the other key lessons that you've learned? Like, let's talk about now a little bit. Like, you've grown multiple companies and exited. That's an incredible feat. How have you done that? Like, what's your system for doing that? Could you give us an overview of how you've done that time and time again?
Yeah. So I've found, you know, you really need to have the end in mind. And I say in my book, I think it was Neil Armstrong who said, we've only got two problems to solve, right? It's how to get to the moon and then how to get back, right?
How to get back.
Right. And the thing is, as entrepreneurs, we often go so gung ho into building the business. We don't think about we think about how to get to the moon, but we don't think about how to get back. One day, you're going to want to exit that business for any number of reasons. You've got bored with it. You found a better opportunity. You've gotten sick. You want to go for a holiday. You want to exit for a big paycheck or whatever. So no matter what you do, and a lot of people say, "Oh, I never want to do anything else. I love what I do." Great, but have the ability that if the day comes where you want to move countries, you want to move house, you want to do whatever, you want to do something else, have the ability for the business to be valuable for a prospective purchaser. Now, the ironic thing is the stuff that you do to make a business valuable to a purchaser is the stuff that will make the business valuable to you as well. Because if the business can run without you, then you can go on a holiday, you can work less if you want to, you can take time off and not worry about things going. It's kind of, there's nothing worse than you're on holidays with your family and you keep having to check your phone and respond to emergencies, and you got your laptop and your wife's getting pissed off like, hey, are you giving us attention, or are you kind of just still in business mode? And so, and you're kind of torn, and I've been there before, right? So I totally understand that. The stuff that makes a business valuable to prospective purchasers is the stuff that makes it valuable to you. So, and the way that I've looked at building value in the business is really thinking about that exit. How is this going to end? So who is going to buy this and why? And there's the normal way that a lot of businesses sell, which is kind of like a multiple of earnings. So, your earnings are, say, $1 million. So 3 times earnings, you can sell it for $3 million. And that's kind of like, I think that's the default kind of lazy way. But a better way, and a way that's really made me a lot of money, is by figuring out who's going to really value this, because it's going to put a rocket under what they're already doing. So it's, if they apply this piece of technology or this IP to their business, they're going to be able to 10x or whatever else. And then you're having a very different discussion with a prospective purchaser. It's not about, okay, we've got 1,000 customers and $1 million revenue. It's kind of like that's the icing on the cake. That's nice. But hey, if we apply this technology or this process to your business, you're going to be able to have a massive margin uplift, or you're going to have a massive exponential growth or something like that. So figuring out who would find whatever you're doing very, very valuable, exponentially valuable, more than just buying your customers and buying out your revenue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really great advice. How what's the first thing you do? So you've mapped out hey, we're going to this business. Here's the start. Here's the end. We want to position it to be sold to X, Y, Z because it's going to achieve X outcome to them, right? Which it's supply and demand. It's very valuable. Yep. What's the first thing you start working on to grow a business? You've obviously grown a business, the BRW Fast 100, fast, right? Yep. What was the first kind of area that you focused on as the visionary or the CEO in that business?
So we were then hyper focused on target market and the offer to the target market, because if we can work backwards, so we figured like in that telecommunications space, we really niched down. We figured, right, we were going to be B2B only. We're not going to sell to consumers. We're going to sell to people who are going to have a telecommunications bill of $500 or more per month, right? So then that niches down in terms of who our client is. And then we niche down even more. In telecommunications, you can sell 1,000 different services. You can sell internet, you can sell, conferencing, video conferencing, audio conferencing, all of that. We niche down to a very specific service that we could see would give the customer a massive benefit. So at the time it was called voice over IP, and we developed one of the biggest voice over IP networks at the time, focused on B2B. And we could see, first of all, we could achieve an amazing result for a client. So we could, pretty much halve their phone bill without any reduction in quality or any of that sort of thing. So we were hyper focused on who the client was, what the value proposition was. And then more than that, we could see if someone is kind of a legacy telecommunications carrier, and they implemented our technology in their business, that would give them a massive margin uplift. Their margin would go from like 20% to like 60%. So that's like a very different discussion we have around value and when you're exiting, and that's exactly what happened. So
Wow.
so we thought about who would be our ultimate customer. So thinking about the person or organization that buys you out as your ultimate customer, and then working back down from that.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, and I think that ties very nicely into back to what you shared in the very beginning, though, too, though, is around getting your marketing right. You know, you can, a lot of people, I know a lot of people start business because they're great at being a technician. They're very great at doing their thing, or, selling that, being a great service or producing a great widget, but they're not necessarily thinking about the market. And, I totally agree that I think that if you want to grow a big business, you've got to first identify what's the problem in the market that they're willing to pay for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What's the top 3 bits of advice you've ever been given from mentors or people that you know?
Yeah. So the first one, as I previously mentioned, is you're a marketer of the thing that you do. You're a marketer of legal services. You're a marketer of medical services. You're a marketer of accounting services first, and rather than being an accountant or a lawyer or in medical practice or whatever. So that's something that that is absolutely key. Really, the next thing is really thinking of marketing as a as propulsion or an amplifier. So marketing is not going to turn a crappy product into a good product, right?
No.
It's going to amplify whatever you have, right? So if you've got a
But they
crappy
say
product,
you can't polish a turd.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Or lipstick on a pig. There's a few different ways. So so there's that. So really understanding that. So yes, so like I say, product and service is not the most important, but it is very, very important. And then the third thing that I would say is really thinking about having a bit of a skunk works and thinking about what's actually going to disrupt our industry, or disrupt my business. What are the threats, and what are the things that I need to be aware of? Like, because so many times, things will be cruising along well, but that's usually when you're going to get smacked in the face. And
So true.
the
moment you think that things are going well, that's the warning sign that you're just
yeah,
about to get knocked back down.
Exactly. And I mean, there's so many examples of this. Like, I was doing a keynote presentation where I talk about, Netflix and Blockbuster. Like Blockbuster had the audience, they had everyone, they had all the physical inventory, they had the stores and everything like that. There's now one Blockbuster left in the entire world. It's in Oregon. It's now become a tourist destination where people come and take selfies in front of it. They could have been the Netflix, right? But they weren't paying attention to what was happening in the industry, and it starts, small. It's like, oh, there's this little funny startup that's kind of mailing. And interestingly, like Netflix didn't start out as a streaming service. They just were mailing DVDs out to people without the physical stores. But Blockbuster wanted to keep charging late fees. They were making a lot of money on late fees, whereas this little startup called Netflix, they were just mailing out DVDs, not charging late fees and things like that. And they weren't paying attention. Then when they got into streaming, they still didn't pay enough attention. So now they pretty much don't exist anymore. And there's many examples of that. So paying attention to what's going to disrupt your business or your industry, and having a little bit of a separate kind of skunk works where you're experimenting, where you're trying new things and testing out new products. You don't have to completely wipe out what you're doing right now. Maybe that's going to be something far in the future, but kind of staying abreast of what's going to happen in your industry.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic advice, Allan. Fantastic advice. So for any of the guys and girls that are watching or listening to this today, where can they find a bit more about you from?
Yeah, sure. So I've got a book called The One Page Marketing Plan, which you can get on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or wherever you buy books. That's one place. My website is successwise.com, where you can download the one-page marketing plan canvas, and we can have a conversation. So those are probably the two best places.
Awesome. Allan, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today, mate. Really appreciate all you had to share, and very much aligned with a lot of the similar beliefs and values that we have about business as well, which is always entertaining. Mate, what I'd like to say is the guys out there that are listening and watching this, if you haven't already, subscribe or send us through a review. And equally too, if you'd like to hear more from Allan, please hit us up, and we're more than happy to get you back on for that interview soon.
Thanks, Barry. Pleasure being on your show.
Thanks, Allan. See you, mate.
Yeah.
If you're in a position that many of our clients were before joining us, which is that your business is controlling you rather than you controlling your business, we would love to have a chat to you to see whether or not we might be the right fit to partner with you to help you grow and succeed in business. And over the past 8 years, we've helped hundreds of business owners around the world to grow, scale, and succeed in business. Many of our clients report that we've helped them to triple their profits and double their time off in 12 months or less. If you jump onto YouTube and notice the hundreds of testimonies, you'd see that this is a common theme amongst them. If you're a business owner that's generating more than $300,000 a year in annual revenue, whether it's $500 million, $5 million, even $10 million a year, and you're looking to take your business and your life to the next level, we might be able to help. If you're noticing that your business is lacking structure, maybe systems or processes, maybe you're not quite attracting enough or the right type of quality leads, making enough sales, or maybe you're even having issues finding, hiring, retaining, and training the right team members, we could be a fit for you. Ultimately, we believe that we never have business problems, we have personal problems that are expressed through our business. And a lot of the work we do is with you as a business owner, helping you to constantly upgrade the way that you see life, the way that you make decisions, and the way that you help construct a profitable and purpose-driven business. In order for us to do that though, you need to book in a quick 15-minute application call with one of our scaling specialists here at the Game Changers. Through the 15-minute call, we're going to ask you a bunch of questions to see if or how we might better help you. If we can't help you, we'll let you know politely and do our best to point in the direction of someone that can. However, if we can help you, we'll look at booking you a 1-hour game plan session where we're going to dive a lot deeper into where you and your business are at right now, where it is that you want to go in the next 3, 5, and 10 years' time, and what are the potential roadblocks or challenges or even opportunities that are along the journey in order for you to get there faster. If you're really feeling that it's time for you to experience the love and the joy of running a business again, if you're really wanting to experience a business that does actually operate without you while still producing profit, we may very well be the right fit. So book in a 15-minute call, we can have a chat and see where we go from there. My name is Barry, and thanks for listening. Hopefully we get a chance to talk soon.